there will be enough or no? Enough internet.
Have you started?
I don't know. I should check with Nikita if you said this. No, it's
And she
2:15.
said no. Oh, it hasn't been started yet. I think let's begin.
You check. I'll check with Nikita. Just wait. I'll check. She said you can start in 2 minutes. It is loading up. Right?
Okay.
You are ready?
I'm ready.
You got the flow? I guess you can start. That's what she said.
So we can.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. A very good afternoon to all the listeners. I'm Ashi Nagariya, product manager at Vayana, and joining me today in this session is Jitin Nanda, executive VP at Vayana. Jitin has been working in FMCG, banking, and payment sector for 2.5 decades. He has handled all the facets of banking from personal to MSME, SME banking. Before Vayana, he was the global corporate payments head at Amex. He then started his own venture in the year 2015, focusing on B2B payments, which is India's largest payments platform called Vendor to Pay. So, welcome, Jitin.
Hi. Thanks, Ashi. And good afternoon to everybody.
So, Jitin, let's talk about MSME SME sector today, which is small, micro, medium enterprises. They are the lifeblood of the global economy today, representing 90% of enterprises and half of the global workforce. Talking about the Indian landscapes, MSMEs are not just economic contributors, but they are the heartbeat of India's economic landscape. 63 million MSMEs in India. They are the backbone of trade, innovation, and science. In the recent India's G20 presidency, the role of MSMEs have become more pronounced. They not just symbolizes economic growth, but also the spirit of unity and cooperation, which defines the India's global vision. So, what are your thoughts on SMEs or MSMEs performing and its state today in India?
So, Ashi, You're absolutely right to that extent when we talk about SME. And then let's talk about globally, we can talk about it a little later. Let's look at it from an Indian context. And the fact that almost 63 million, as you rightly pointed out, are the number of SMEs which are there. Just to give you a little balance over the GDP numbers, this contributes somewhere close to 30% of our GDP comes through the SME. And the export, and if you were to look at cross border, almost 45% of our GDP on the cross border comes through SME. So that's the broader picture. Uh, but let's look at it. There has been a transition. So during COVID, this whole numbers fell down by almost around uh, 500 basis point to 600 basis points. And
Hmm.
the first character of an SME came out there. They took them a year and a half where they have rebounded and they are back to the original level. And to be very clear, SME were hit the hardest when it came to COVID, right?
That's
So
right.
that's possibly one of the biggest characters of an SME. If we have to, as a country, as a nation, move towards a 5 trillion mark, it is going to be the SMEs who are going to take us forward. It is not the large corporates. It is not the middle corporate. It is the SMEs and the MSMEs who will take us forward, and that
True.
is where the real the real requirement of innovation, the real environment of empowerment is required. So SME is the most growing sector or a segment in India, and that is where what we require is innovation. That is where what we require is investment and knowledge. So that's my two bits about SMEs and MSMEs.
Right. So when you talk about innovation and investment, so what are we typically looking at? Like, what are the positive and the negative sides in this business?
So let's break this whole SME myth or the SME concept, and let's go back to why people do jobs and what is the cycle of doing these jobs, right? And then we will come to, because for us to understand where do you want to invest and why how you want to innovate, what we really need to understand, what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses and what are your goals. So let us first understand the goals of an SME, or what is the requirement of an SME. So let us and leave SME aside and let's look at a human value, right? Human life. The first and foremost thing is that the for any human being is to survive, and then it is to manage or exist, and then it is to grow. That's how any human life also looks at.
Yeah.
Similarly, if you look at it from an SME point of view, survive, manage, grow. I'm deliberately using the word survival because uh, for an SME, they continuously need fuel. They need the money. They need the money to collect. They need to continue to pay salaries. They need to buy things. So survival becomes for me is the most important part. Managing, that is, once you have survived enough, you would need to manage your own businesses, and grow means you should be able to move to the next level. Now, now let's look at a typical function of an SME. What does an SME really do, and what is the broad actions of an SME?
Hmm.
So for an SME, one of the biggest thing for the start point is that they will forecast. They need to sell something or they need to produce something. So there'll be a forecast. They will kind of procure things. Then they'll manufacture or add value. Then they'll bring it to a place or point where they will sell. From that point of selling, at the time of selling, they will need to create an invoice. At the time of after they've created the invoice, they may need to bring it to the portal or the GST portal. From there, they may need to send it for collection. Collection, when I'm saying sending it to their customers or distributors to pay up for them,
The
right?
payment links. Yeah.
The payments, right? So they would like to do the collection, and once they have done this, they that is one cycle. As he will continue to do this cycle, he would want to grow further. He would want to have more. So at that point of time, he will require capital. So that is how a typical cycle of an SME will always work. They will continue to procure something, they will continue to sell something, and in between, they would always try to grow. Now, Growth can come through two ways. Either your system or you have enough capital of your own that can make you grow, or you will need an external help for it. So if you were to break this into broad steps, right? The first step being is compliance. When I'm talking about compliance, is creating the invoices, sending the invoices for the GST, or even sending those invoices for the statutory purposes. The second part of this becomes is collection of the money. That is, whoever they have sold their goods to, collect the money from them. And the third part of that becomes is growth, which will mean capital, or may need, which may lead to access to capital. So if you were to break now broad, if you were to bring it into broad parameters, so we could typically say that an SME business is dependent on three C's. That is compliance, collection, and or when I say collection, that is cash flow, and credit or capital. So the business of an SME is dependent upon these three things, which are compliances, compliances, managing their collections, and managing their capital, either their own or their external capital. So any organization who wants to innovate, or any organization who wants to bring value to them, will have to start looking at these three C's very, very carefully, and they will have to create journeys, and they will have to create solutions around these three C's. That is of compliance, cash flow management, credit. So these are the three C's that you want to work on. And that is, if you understand these three C's, and if you can innovate, and if you can bring technology to touch these three points for an SME, that is where uh, you could really add positive value back into it.
Correct. So as you likely said that, MSME, SME has two sides. One is the receivables and one is the payable side. And the three C's or the three pillars, which you said that actually MSME, SME has to think on it. Collection, that's the cash flow, compliance, and credit. Now, speaking of these three foundations or the three pillars, now today at Vayana we have solutions. We have brought solution. We've got trade financing, we've got payments platform, receivable platform. So, how do you think, like as we speak of all of those challenges that today MSME SME face, how do we emerge a solution or to bring a platform for these MSME SME to utilize something to have a complete a one-stop platform for end-to-end trade automation. How do we do that?
So let's go back. Let's go back to the 2000s, or late 1900s, or 1990s, or something. Net banking had just about started, or the ATM business had just about started for the personal banking people. Nobody at that point of time ever dreamt or believed that you could sit in your house, make payments, make investments, pay for insurance, pay for your utility bills, and so on and so forth. It was technology which came at a consumer level. Similarly, when you look at an SME, that is the point. That is where you need to start thinking. Once you understand the cycle of an SME, the requirements of SME, they need to come to one single platform. Because let's look at an SME, right? He is largely a owner-driven company. They don't have too much of staff. They have very limited resources in people. And if you go to an MSME, that's even much smaller. For them to manage all of these things and to do this management at various points, for a they need to go to another place to make collection, they need to go to another site to make upload their invoices, they have another bank to some other place to go to collect finance. That is where it kind of gets scattered, right?
That's
So
right.
the first thing that any organization, any fintech organization, so as ours, we will always endeavor to bring all of these their requirements onto one singular platform. That is, once you've brought them to a singular platform and say that, look, here is this product, this portal, app, whatever thing that you may want to call it. You log on to this. From there, you can create you can do your compliances. You could create your invoices. You could send them for GST registration. You could send links for your to your customers to make payments, and also then reconcile whatever you get back from there. And if you require capital, you have access to capital. So if there could be one platform which could bring all of these things onto one single platform, where an SME or an MSME just through one single login can perform all the four or all the three C's and the four or and all their works, that is where innovation is required, and that is where Vayana as an organization is heading. And just to give you an example, uh, as to the evolution of this product in Vayana. So we had a product of called Hilo, which typically would manage creating e-invoices, and then from e-invoicing sending it for collection, and from collection getting the money and reconcile. On the other hand, there was a vendor to pay, which was a payment gateway, which is something which was making payments on behalf of the SMEs, large corporates, and so on and so forth. So where a corporate could get himself onboarded, register his vendors, and start making payments, right? So this was the second element. And at some point of time, we thought that, you know what, if the requirement of an SME is to have all of these things on one single platform, we kind of converged it together and made it VICCAS.
That's right.
VICCAS is Vayana Integrated Cash Flow Credit Analytical Solution. This is what VICCAS is. And just as a matter of fact, our Prime Minister is all the time mentioning and
Yeah.
talking about VICCAS and how important VICCAS is. So we definitely thought that if we wanted to do VICCAS for the country, and specifically for the SMEs, we must bring these things together and present them on one single platform, and such that SME could uh, create invoices, collect his own money, get credit whenever he requires, make payments, and in all, head towards the Vikas that we also want.
Absolutely. So I think because for me as well, it's the same thing, providing um, collect, manage, and grow. That's the tagline, right?
Right.
So giving you a
That's
360.
you reminded me of it. So when I was talking about in the beginning part of survival, and I was actually forgetting the word collect, and
Mhm.
the point was, and I was using the word survival largely because of the fact that, SMEs, and when you will look at the data, um, in any of the economic forums, you'll find that the payments are delayed for SMEs and MSMEs. They don't have the muscles to really
Yeah,
collect money very fast, and a lot of efforts has been made by the government now, to streamline their collections. And that is why I was using the word survival, because for an SME, the first thing to survive is to collect their outstanding. So you're absolutely right. Collect. Once you're able to collect, they're able to manage. After the collection, their business is, then they will all start looking towards growing from it.
that's correct. So basically, Vikas is a platform providing a 360 view of your entire business, right? So as we spoke about the landscape in India, you told about survival, you told about growth. Now, let's take or let's concentrate on the credit piece. Okay. So, what are the primary credit related hurdles that we or Vikas is solving for these MSMEs? How do we like propose to address these issues which are very important for the MSME SME today in their business? It's not easy for them to get the credit, right?
Okay, so when we are looking at credit, and let's just first move away from MSME or SME, and let's understand credit first, right? What is
Yeah,
credit? Credit is something that, in the most simplest terms, is something that you want to buy today, you don't have the money for, and you will pay for it later. Right? That's the
right.
simplest way of credit, right? That I want to buy something, I don't have the money for it, somebody else pays for it, I pay that guy later. So it is about your future earnings, is what it is. Right? If only in future am I able to repay this money back, and hence
Hmm.
credit is all about your future earnings. So that's the standpoint. Now let's look at MSMEs and SMEs, and let us look at we as an economy who already has. a fourth economy running, which we kind of call it the black market, unknown, undiscovered wealth or money. So there is
Hmm.
this economy that kind of works. And that now let's look at another element called the credit underwriter or the credit giver. He needs to understand an MSME or an SME today and assess and give him money today and assess such that he is able to repay tomorrow or the later. So that really is the complexity of credit in an MSME. What is the complexity? Complexity number one: MSME SMEs may not have the kind of documentation that they may require for a credit underwriter to underwrite. That's number one. Number two, the MSME SME may not have the knowledge as to where and how to go and get them. That's number two. Number three, MSME or SME may not, so he may not be able to use credit. So it is very important for any person who takes credit, he should be able to use the credit. If you're not able to use the credit, generally the credit will kind of go waste. So these are the three very important things, very different, and it may not necessarily be uh, only pointed at an MSME or SME, any credit line. The and to be able to show and project yourself that you will be able to repay in a later date is one of the most important things. Now, if you were to look at our banking systems and credit evaluation systems today, most of the credit evaluation in the banking system are very reactive in the sense that they all look at your past data, that is some historical track record, and then make an assessment. That's another problem. And when you are looking at a historical data, you're not really forecasting for future. What you're really forecasting is for what you have done in the past. So you've done something in the past. There's some document that shows that you've done something in the past, and basis that you're making an assessment towards future and saying, okay, yeah, okay, whether this guy was credit worthy or not.
Hmm.
So these are the three broader issues when it comes to credit and MSME and SME. So what is the thought process in Vayana? So in thought process in Vayana is that MSME and SME has a large pool of people who require credit and may not be credit ready. So one of the first and most important things that we want to do in Vayana is to create this transition of credit not ready people towards credit ready. That is to move them from you from a customer who was not ready, or he may not be necessarily ready to avail credit, not take credit, avail credit, to a person who has now become credit ready and people are willing to lend. So if you want to do something like that, what you require to do is that you need to do a lot of surrogate underwriting. That is, when you say underwriting, is that means you are going to use elements other than his financial papers to start understanding the complexity or the ease of the business that this gentleman does, or this MSME does. So that is where you start moving towards surrogate underwriting. Now, uh, so we've established a few things. We want to move a credit not ready person to a credit ready person. We want to transform him into that. We want to use surrogate underwriting. That means you want to know about his business a lot more than what you can actually read out of his financials. To get to both of these things, we need to establish transparency between his business and us, or the lender. So when with Vikas as a platform where you are able to create your own invoices, you are able to put those invoices for the compliances or the e invoice, create your airway bills. You are going to collect that monies for those invoices from the customers. You can do it, and if you have all of this, and plus obviously make payments from the same platform, and when you have all of this information of a customer, you can start identifying the credit readiness of it. Right? Because this is genuine surrogate. This is the real surrogation that we are really talking about, where I can see real data of customers in the real environment as to how they are performing with that data, and then translating the data into their credit readiness. So that is the objective of VICCAS. to bring this platform where a person is able to raise their invoices, get their e-invoices invoicing done, create airway bills, create this whole paper trail or invoice trail, or and then marry it with the collection program, marry it with the payable program, and hence be able to give credit. So that is what we try and do. We are through VICCAS and make it one single platform through which you could create your invoices, you could create cash flow, you could get credit, and also move towards credit revenues.
Absolutely. So I think Vikas is definitely fitting towards, as you said, our Prime Minister Modi growth, because, right? Putting and defining this as Vayana integrated cash flow credit analytical solution. So we spoke about credit. How easy has Vikas made the life of a business? I'm not defining or sectoring towards MSME, SME, but just businesses compliances. How easy this platform can make it. When you talk about e-invoicing, e-way bill, how easy this entire platform has, curated towards that.
So, what I'm given to understand, what I've seen, what a typical person was earlier doing was making an invoice, sending it to his chartered accountant, who then moved, create an e-invoice for him, and then upload it into the GST portal or create an e-way bill or things like that. It is as simple as clicking the button. All you have to do is upload your Excel sheet onto the system. It will convert into an invoice. From that invoice, it will create an e-invoice. From that e-invoice, it will register itself into the GST portal and also be sent to the customer
Hmm.
by just a simple upload of an Excel sheet. As basic as that. It's as basic as going and switching on the light or switching off the light or switching off the light in the room. So that is what digitization does. I mean, that's what exactly why fintechs exist, and that's why all of us are there today to make those simple processes convenient and easy to use, and take away the cumbersome processes out of it. So it is as simple as just upload an invoice and you complete the entire cycle of converting an Excel sheet into an invoice, from that invoice into an e-invoice, and from that e-invoice to an A-way bill, and then also sending it to your customer for collection. It's just one single upload.
Absolutely. And today, I think I should probably say this, that 40% of e-invoicing is done from our platform, Vikas.
Yes. Yeah. So we also happen to be at Vayana, one of the largest, or I think second largest or the largest GSPN, who are a gateway into GST for the government of India. So yes, there
Hmm.
is a lot of volume that flows through us. Yes.
Correct, correct. And as we speak about cash flow, now cash flow is what? You receive money, you pay money, right? Now, in this scenario, obviously, UPI has come into the picture where people are preferring to pay digitally. But there are certain group of users, a certain group of businesses, they still they are in that cash zone. They still want, they prefer cash as a transaction mode. How we thriving that as a platform? How are we like putting connecting these businesses and transforming into digitization?
I'll just give you share some data with you. So SME MSME collections largely are now, as per data, is around 70% of that collection is largely happening through a digital medium. So
Correct.
that's the data that is showing.
Hmm.
So the issue of cash really is definitely there in the picture. But a bigger issue before you kind of go to cash, the first bigger issue is creating uh, an infrastructure for an SME or an MSME to be able to get cash, uh, to get digital currency or digital payments, not currency, digital payments. Right? That infrastructure is important. So as you rightly said, that what you are saying is that UPIs exist today, and a lot of people are just using mobile numbers, and you don't really require an infrastructure to be created to collect that money. Absolutely right. But UPI is not the only method through which people pay.
Of course.
UPI is not the only method through which businesses pay, right? So they also require net banking. They also require a, RTGS product. They will also require a UPI product. They may require a wallet product. And now also with commercial cards and corporate cards taking a lot of prevalence, a lot of people are also starting to make payments through cards. So VICCAS presents to the customer one single platform, one single product where his customer can use any instrument that he wants to make it with. He wants to
Hmm.
do a net banking, he could use. He want to make a UPI payment, he could make. If he wants to make an RTGS payment, he can make. If he wants to make a payment through a card, he can make, or through a debit card. So that's the first and most important thing that uh, that we are trying to do. We are trying to open up all instruments of payment, all how some people say, all factors of payment available for your customers to make payments to. So that's the first most important thing. Right? Now coming to the second part is that, and that is where the education is required, and that
Hmm.
transition from not ready credit customer to a ready customer, credit customer.
Right.
And one of the problems between a not ready and a ready customer is cash, or the component of cash in their business, or the unaccounted, or he's not able to display. So firstly, it starts coming out of education, and you start and making people understand that, look, if it was to flow in this way, we will have the transparency. We'll be able to ensure that you start getting money. You can lend more. You can get credit so that you can grow your business. That's one way to look at it. And the second way to look at it, to share with for the customer, is to give him that infrastructure that he does not really require to get cash. So today, why let's look at it. Why does in an FMCG distribution or redistribution kind of a thing, a shopkeeper, uh, a distributor salesman reaches a shopkeeper. The shopkeeper and offers a bill, gives him a bill to pay. The shopkeeper takes out some money and gives it in his hand.
Hmm.
Very typical example of cash
Hmm.
use. And it's not that this money is going out of the economy or it's black money. It's a very genuine
Yeah.
transaction. Right? But what it is creating, once this cash transaction has started to happen, you opened up that amount of money to a risk of pilferage. Right? But if it was possible for the same salesperson to be offering a bill to the shopkeeper and say, here is the invoice, it is there on your mobile phone. You could just click, and from that click, you could make payments to any of the instruments. That is, you could make a payment through card, UPI, net banking, RTGS, and also even if at that point of time you wanted to make a payment through cash, because you could make a payment through cash, was there a legible way to record that transaction? So that means once I've received cash, am I recording? Is that cash getting recorded onto my ledger or into my account or into my VICCAS portal? That ensures pilferage goes up. So creating a payment infrastructure, and if a MSME or SME was to go and create this whole payment infrastructure by themselves, it is very difficult for them. So giving them a ready-made payment infrastructure that they could make, that their customers could make payments through any ways, through any means, through any form factor, and giving them a infrastructure and which could reconcile with the invoices that you have issued, is one of the big strengths of Lucas.
Correct. Yes. And to addition to the entire use case of the example which you gave of a shopkeeper and a distributor, talking about different payment instruments, I think embedded financing is also another option for if the user doesn't or the customer doesn't have the money at the moment to pay to their distributors, making them credit worthy, identifying their profile on the
So
back
that
end,
was the second
and
part
then
to it, to help the customer with make the payment in cash. You're absolutely right to that extent. And we would come to the next point on the credit. Now, once his customer's got and he has to pay money to the MSME, does
right.
that customer have an opportunity from that point itself to avail from him? So a lot of people maybe in this podcast would have heard of this BNPL, that is buy now pay later kind of a thing. which works very well for um, individuals and people, but can it is far more required at a B2B level, and at an
Hmm.
MSME paying to another MSME, because that's where it is really required. And can that MSME uh, get the money just by through this VICCAS program? Yes, your customers can also get credit and they can pay for it. So you're absolutely right to that. That not only does this manages the cash, can also extend credit to the customers, such that your customer, that is your MSME customer, receives money on time, while the payer gets time to repay. So this product,
Right. Yeah.
us as a platform, offers that.
Absolutely. And, just to add more thoughts towards it. So for me, Vikas is actually not a product. It's like a platform, a brand, which is not for focused categories of customers, which are your distributors or manufacturers or seller, buyer, all these people, but also to the last mile. So that is where the interconnection happens, and even for the last mile to pay do certain payments or collect certain money, or to reach out to certain distributors is where Vikas is helping out.
So, Ashi, just to explain it a little further, and you're right, the network effect that you're really talking about. Uh, if you were to step back from a network effect and look at it from a little 10,000 feet and just look down at this whole cycle, what really happens is there is a person who needs to receive money, right, from another person. That means another person has a payable and you have a receivable to receive, right? Once you have received this money, you have a payable again. So
Hmm.
once you receive money, you also have a payable. So the simplest way to look at Vikas is a platform. And if you were to look at two sides of Vikas, one is a receivable and the other is a payable. So anybody who has a receivable has a payable, and anybody who has a payable has a receivable. So, and that is what this platform does. It creates the network between a receivable and a payable, and from that payable again to another receivable, and from that receivable to again to another payable. So
Hmm.
this is exactly what is the network effect that Vikas brings to people, where any person who has a receivable can make a payable and can use it as a payable, and whoever he makes payments to, that becomes a receiver and again can use it to make a payment. So this is exactly what we are endeavoring to do. Capture this whole staircase value is what I really call it. That is, one step would lead to the other, to the other, to the other, and it keeps on going very deep into the economy. So payable, receivable, payable is what you try and manage or get. If you get one customer on board who's doing his receivables, you are sure that you can manage his payables. From his payables, the person who receives that money can also start making payments from that. And because as a product is able to give credit to both on the receivable side and as well as on the payable side, so it covers both the ends.
Right.
Yeah.
So we spoke about collect, we spoke about manage. How we helping these businesses to grow? So when grow is a very broader term, but if you have to, just put it in like a line sort of, how is Vikas helping them to grow their businesses?
So Vikas, okay, this is very interesting that you brought it up. Okay, and it's a great question actually. So to grow, and let's just look at. In fact, I was in one of the forums very recently, and somebody did mention to us in that forum, and that person did say that today uh, people who want credit. I'm just using credit as an example. They don't
Hmm.
want credit for today. They need credit for tomorrow. They want to grow tomorrow, and that is why they want
Hmm. Hmm.
credit. That is somebody mentioned to in one of the
Hmm.
forums very recently, and it is
Yeah.
absolutely right. It's one of the thought processes of Vikas. Now, when you're looking at growth, you're looking at growth from two aspects. One is from an aspect where he has the capital to grow, or has an access to capital to grow. So that we've kind of explicitly explained so far, that through Vikas he can get access to capital, and he can get access to uh, money. And even if he is not credit there, or he is not there, he is not a conventional customer which a bank underwrites, we help him get credit through the surrogated manner, right? By building the transparency. So that's one part of it. One of the other issues which SMEs and MSMEs face, and more not may not be from an urban location point of view, but definitely from a rural area, is the marketing or the sales part, right, or the commerce part of it. Because at some point of time, if it continues to have a network effect, as we are trying to explain, will automatically become a marketplace or a commerce. It will become a platform where a buyer and a seller could meet, and that typically is the fourth C of VICCAS. So I was deliberately talking about the three C's in the beginning. That is credit, that is compliance, cash flow, credit. But if all of these three things come into play, the fourth C of commerce becomes a reality. Yeah. I think we've lost Ashi. Guys, I think there's been something wrong in the. So 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 I guess that was what it was. So moving towards commerce and building up the marketing, uh, bringing and creating this platform through which uh, the your customer could even sell, and creating giving him that edge of commerce would typically be the fourth C. So that is where we will really cover for growth. That is, convert a customer from a non-credit ready into credit ready, then giving him credit, and eventually giving him a platform through which he could also buy and sell, which is the fourth C. And these four elements would typically take care of the growth of the
Hey,
MSME.
Jitin, sorry, there was this electricity cut out. Are you there?
Yeah, yeah, I'm there. Can you hear me? Yeah,
I think I'll have to join it again. Hey, Jitin, can you hear me?
yes, Ashi.
Sorry, there was this electricity cut out. Apologies for
Yeah,
that.
no, no. I hope the audience is still there.
Of course. So I think this was definitely a great session where Vikas has actually transformed the MSME SME business in the three areas, the pain points, which is the cash flow management, credit, and compliance. So, listeners, if you have any questions, you can leave comments, and we are happy to answer here.
So I guess there are no questions. So okay. Uh, I believe there's a question. I've just got it, so I'll read out the question to everybody. What is the eligibility criteria for credit access? So, typically, if you have the documentation, the credit access, or if you there is a GST product that you're doing, you could get access on day one itself. If you're not if you are not really a credit ready customer, we take around 3 to 6 months of you being on the platform, on the network, and once you are there on the network for between 3 to 6 months, you can start getting access to credit. So if your documentation is partially there, and so then we are like, we can actually look at that documentation. That means in documentation what we look at is that you must be at least running this business for over 2 years. You must have a GST. You must be GST compliant, and largely these two things, that vintage of 2 years or more and GST compliance. If these two things fall into play, you could be getting credit. You can have access to credit on day one. And say, for example, you are not having these two things, just basis of surrogation, that means through your invoice reading and through seeing how you are creating invoices, how soon are you collecting money from your customers, it is at least 3 to 6 months of observation and understanding your business is when then you can be access to, when you could have access to. So that's the basic eligibility criteria for availing credit. So there's somebody else who's asked me is, what is an overreaching future goal that underlines Vayana's development of VICCAS? So that's number one. Future goal of Vayana, of VICCAS. Let's look at for future goal of VICCAS. The day we are able to create this network, and as we were trying to say, that once we have been able to create a pay, anybody who has a payment to make, and bring that receiver and the payer on the same network, and if we are able to do, even to say like 2% or 5% of the population, of the SME population, I think you've hit it big. You've done very, very well with this business. That's just a very, very small percentage on overall numbers, but it's a huge piece in MSME or SME. So if you were able to reach out to even and have at least 1 or 2% MSMEs using this platform, uh, I think that that's one of the big numbers that somebody may want to talk about. But having said that, that is more on the numeric side. But as a product, what would be the future goal? The future goal would be, if it Vikas becomes generic to the growth of MSME and SME. as as I said, uh, we will take care of your compliance. Take care of your cash flow. We will ensure that the credit is falling into place. So all of those three we are taking. The day Vikas platform can becoming a commerce platform, that means a buying and selling of goods can start happening on the platform. That means you are able to market your goods on the platform itself, because of the fact that there's so much of um, so many customers there, and so many buyers and sellers already on the platform, who are either receiving money or paying money, and you are able to create the fourth C. I think that will be a big disruption for Vikas as a product. Um, There's also another question that somebody's asked is how does a vision align with the objective of offering comprehensive solution to the B2B ecosystem? Okay. So now I think let us look at the vision. What does Vayana stand for? What are we trying to do in Vayana? So we want to be the country's first or the largest uh, B2B ecosystem player. That means we should be in a position, both all from the large market context or the mid market concept, or what we call in banking terms wholesale market, middle market, and business banking, and the MSME and the SME category. So you want to touch base onto the B2B side on all the segments, right? And wherever we touch, we don't want to touch uh, just say one side of the thing. So if you are going to do, and let's take for example, in a supply chain finance, Vina would always look like ensuring the supply chain, that is of payment, that is down the supply chain, you are able to go right up to the last mile. But that doesn't mean that you only want to go to the last mile. We want to touch the last mile, and we also want to touch the anchor, and we also want to give the anchor a similar look and feel, a look or a platform that is sitting on his system, or on one single platform. He could manage his receivables and payables. So Vikas and Vayana in a way are very aligned. Vikas is absolutely aligned to the thought process of Vayana on the broader level, because that is what Vayana has been endeavoring to do. That is weave itself into the corporate world and ensuring that every touch point is taken care of. Vikas, on the other hand, is doing exactly the same thing with the MSME and the SME, where it is weaving itself between the MSMEs and SMEs and the business banking customers, and ensuring that every touch point of their B2B space or of their trade business is getting covered and touched by Vayana. So that's how Vikas and Vayana get aligned with each other. Okay, this is a good one. I think this is something which is very interesting. I think we will have to start thinking on this line. So how can the question is how can a business register themselves and access services if they don't have a GST? So there is a problem at this point of time. So today we have opened it up for only the GST users. And I'll explain to you why we use it only for GST, because we are such that we get data from the GST itself to know who are you paying to, who are you receiving money from. So that's one part of it. But we are maybe by the end of this month also open it up for anybody who has a business PAN card. This is your PAN card, and we will ask for some more questions, a lot more questions than just the way than what we ask as far as the GST is concerned. And even a valid PAN holder can start using Vikas services. So you don't necessarily have to. Today you have to be necessarily only a GST given business for us to get you onboarded. But say come around 15th of October or maybe 1st of November, all business PAN cards or any PAN card, if you were a PAN card holder and you were willing to share the information that is required at our end to create the diligence on you, you can use Vikas. So let me see if there's anything else. I guess yeah. So this was the last question, and I just want to leave the thought with all my listeners and all the people who have been there on the podcast with me. Vikas is future. Vikas is what we all want. We all want to go deliver. It is something which is required today for the MSME and SME. Today, Vikas integrates all your problem, all your business problems into one single problem, into one single platform, and opens up your business for both lenders and your customers. And Vikas whether it is called VICCAS today or somebody else calls it by another name, it will become, or products like this will become the the backbone of SME and MSME. It may not happen in 2023, but it is going to happen. It is going to take the same journey what net banking took or the ATM took for individual users. So Vikas will be a product, or Vikas like products will be the products which will exist in the market and will shape the ecosystem of a B2B ecosystem in the near future. I guess at this point, I would like to thank all of you all to have spent their afternoon with me on this podcast, asked me some very interesting questions. I think there's something wrong on Ashi's phone or screen. I want to thank her, and I definitely want to thank Nikita, who's made all of this possible for having organized this podcast. Thank you, Nikita. Thank you, Ashi, and thank you, everybody on the podcast, for being there and listening. Thank you so much. Thanks.